Alright, part 2 of chapter 2, part 1, sure Aurobindo's The Life Divine, called the Two Negations. It is necessary, therefore, that advancing knowledge should base herself on a clear, pure, and disciplined intellect. It is necessary, too, that she should correct her errors sometimes by a return to the restraint of sensible fact, the concrete realities of the physical world. The touch of earth is always reinvigorating to the son of earth, even when he seeks a supraphysical knowledge. It may even be said that the supraphysical can only really be mastered in its fullness, to its heights we can always reach, when we keep our feet firmly on the physical. Earth is his footing, says the Upanishad, wherever it images the self that manifests in the universe. And it is certainly the fact that the wider we extend and the surer we make our knowledge of the physical world, the wider and surer becomes our foundation for the higher knowledge, even for the highest, even for the Brahma Vidya. That is the unmanifest Brahma. In emerging, therefore, out of the materialistic period of human knowledge, we must be careful that we do not rashly condemn what we are leaving or throwing away, even one title of its gains, before we can summon perceptions and powers that are well grasped and secure to occupy their place. Rather, we shall observe and respect and wonder the work that atheism has done for the divine, and admire the services that agnosticism has rendered in preparing the illimitable increase in knowledge. In our world, error is continually the handmaid and pathfinder of truth, for error is really a half-truth that stumbles because of its limitations. Often it is truth that wears a disguise in order to arrive unobserved near its goal. Well, if it could always be, as it has been in the great period we are leaving, the faithful handmaid, severe, conscientious, clean-handed, luminous within its limits, a half-truth and not a reckless and presumptuous aberration. A certain kind of agnosticism is the final truth of all knowledge. For when we come to the end of whatever path, the universe appears as only a symbol or an appearance of an unknowable reality which translates itself here into different systems of values, physical values, vital values, and sensational values, intellectual, ideal, and spiritual values. The more that becomes real to us, the more it is seen to be always beyond defining thought and beyond formulating expression. Mind attains not there, nor speech, as is written in the Upanishads. And yet, as it is possible to exaggerate, with the illusionists, the unreality of the appearance, so it is possible to exaggerate the unknowableness of the unknowable. When we speak of it as unknowable, we mean, really, that it escapes the grasp of our thought and speech, instruments which proceed always by the sense of difference and express by the way of definition. But if not knowable by thought, it is attainable by a supreme effort of consciousness. There is even a kind of knowledge which is one with identity, and by which, in a sense, it can be known. Certainly, that knowledge cannot be reproduced successfully in the terms of thought and speech. But when we have attained to it, the result is a re-evaluation of that in the symbols of our cosmic consciousness, not only in one, but in all the ranges of symbols, which results in a revolution of our internal being through the internal of our external life. which results in a revolution of our internal being and, through the internal, of our external life. Moreover, there is also a kind of knowledge through which that does reveal itself by all these names and forms of phenomenal existence, which to the ordinary intelligence only conceal it. It is this higher, but not highest process of knowledge to which we can attain by passing the limits of the materialistic formula and scrutinizing life, mind, and supermind in the phenomena that are characteristic of them, and not merely in those subordinate movements by which they link themselves to matter. The unknown is not the unknowable. The footnote to that sentence reads, "Other is that than the known. Also, it is above the unknown." From the Upanishads. So, back to the main text. The unknown is not the unknowable. It need not remain the unknown for us, unless we choose ignorance or persist in our first limitations. For to all things that are not unknowable, all things in the universe, there correspond in that universe faculties which can take cognizance of them, and in man, the microcosm, these faculties are always existent, and at a certain stage capable of development. We may choose not to develop them. Where they are partially developed, we may discourage and impose on them a kind of atrophy. But fundamentally, all possible knowledge is knowledge within the power of humanity. And since in man there is the inalienable impulse of nature towards self-realization, no struggle of the intellect to limit the action of our capacities within a determined area can forever prevail. When we have proved matter and realized its secret capacities, the very knowledge which has found its convenience in that temporary limitation must cry to us, like the Vedic restrainers, "Forth now, and push forward also in other fields." If modern materialism were simply an unintelligent acquiescence in the material life, then the advance might be indefinitely delayed. But since its very soul is the search for knowledge, it will be unable to cry a halt. As it reaches the barriers of sense knowledge and of the reasoning from sense knowledge, its very rush will carry it beyond, and the rapidity and sureness with which it has embraced the visible universe is only an earnest of the energy and success which we may hope to see repeated in the conquest of what lies beyond, once the stride is taken that crosses the barrier. We see already that advance in its obscure beginnings. Not only in the one final conception, but in the great line of its general results, knowledge, by whatever path it is followed, tends to become one. By whatever path it is followed, tends to become one, knowledge. Nothing can be more remarkable and suggestive than the extent to which modern science confirms in the domain of matter the conceptions and even the very formula of language which were arrived at by a very different method in the Vedanta, the original Vedanta, and not of the schools of metaphysical philosophy, but of the Upanishads. And these, on the other hand, often reveal their full significance, their richer contents, only when they are viewed in the new light shed by the discoveries of modern science. For instance, that Vedantic expression which describes things in the cosmos as one seed arranged by the universal energy in multitudinous forms. Significant, especially, will be part 3 of this series of videos.